Hello back, family, homeschooler, educators, and scholars. My name is Jade Weatherington. My online presence is Teacher Jade. But I am here to give y'all a coffee talk, tea talk. Got my drink right here with me about homeschooling as a single parent. I'm just going to give you some brief background about myself. I am a single parent. I've been homeschooling since my daughter was 7. She's now 16. We have world schooled. We have road schooled. We have tried a whole lot of things, figured it out as we've gone along. So welcome to my talk. All right, so to begin, we are going to define what single parent homeschooling is. I personally consider it a single parent. Like when you're the sole parent making all the decisions, you're a single parent. However, I've come across quite a few people who are like, well, I feel like a single parent because I'm doing it by myself. So I'll also count in those of you that do have a spouse or partner in the home with you raising your child, but they're not participating in the homeschooling. So I'll take both of those as my definition. So is it possible to homeschool as a single parent? Absolutely, because here I am. I'm doing it. And it might have its own challenges, but it's just like parenting. Parenting has challenges. Homeschooling as a single parent is also going to have challenges, but there are ways that you have to kind of navigate to ensure that you are able to do it. When I first started homeschooling, I did not have a plan. I just did it. This is what my daughter wanted, so I did it. And you'll probably hear this a lot, but you have to determine your why. So ask yourself, why am I homeschooling? What are my intentions? What's my purpose? Write it down. Don't lose focus on why you have decided to homeschool. And you also have to determine your how. So write down how you want to homeschool. There's so many different homeschool approaches, and I've been through quite a few. When I started with my daughter, like I said, we didn't really have a plan. And I accidentally started with K-12 until I realized that K-12 was just school at home, and that had nothing to do with my why for homeschooling. We road schooled. We took a long break, and then we started back up again. We kind of have an eclectic approach. So think about how you're going to homeschool and what approach you want to use in your homeschooling. It's really important to learn about different homeschool methods. It doesn't mean that you have to stick with it. So maybe you want to try a Charlotte Mason. Maybe you want to try a Montessori approach, and it doesn't work. That's fine. Homeschooling is very similar to parenting. You learn as you go. As a single parent that's homeschooling, I've learned how to be creative. I also have learned how to be flexible because I also have a background in education. So I started off thinking that I wanted to have like this. It wasn't really a rigid schedule, but it mirrored too much what traditional like public schooling looked like. So I knew that I had to adjust in order to maintain my sanity, because I work from home and I homeschool my child, and I didn't start working from home full time until I decided to homeschool. So that was also something that I had to figure out. Something I had to adjust to homeschool. So I also know that my experience as a single parent that's homeschooling is different from those single parents who work outside of the home, and they are trying to determine and figure out how they're going to homeschool and how that's going to fit their schedule. But these are some of the things that I really had to focus on: choosing my approach, learning about the different homeschool methods, being creative in all things, and being flexible. So you do want to choose a style that's going to work for you and your child. And if you have multiple children, then you have to adjust for each one of those children. Like, it's almost impossible, even for a classroom teacher, to try to adjust for every single student, even though that's the goal. So within your home and homeschooling your children, try to find the approach that works best for them and the style that works best for them. Luckily for me, my daughter is great at independent work. Like, she is amazing at independent work. And for a couple of years, I did have to stay on top of her. Like, I need you to do this. You need to complete this. I had to go check and make sure she actually did it. And some of the work, we sit down together and we do it side by side, especially when there's a topic that I was like, oh, I'm interested in this and I haven't learned about it in my lifetime yet. Or I had to revisit it because we're learning something like math. And I'm like, oh, I don't remember this math rule. We're going to learn it together. But there is no one size fits all. What you see someone else do will not necessarily work for your family. So I always say, like, don't get intimidated by other people's success. Like, my daughter absolutely wasn't going, well, she's graduating early, but she wasn't going to. Like 2 years ago, if you would have asked me if she's going to graduate early, no, absolutely not. Dual enrollment, no, tried it, didn't work. And I was seeing all the success of other families, like, oh, I want my baby to do that. Don't focus on what other people are doing. Focus on your child and each individual child. And remember, you'll have to adjust as you go because every child is different. Now, another way that you can homeschool as a single parent, because again, it might seem daunting, it might seem challenging because you're like, I'm just one person, how am I supposed to do this? Outsource. You do not have to homeschool on your own. Everything does not have to be done by you. So math, since I just used that as the example, from my daughter's 2nd grade year to about 7th grade, I hired a private tutor. I signed her up for math classes at the local library. I did not do anything math related academically with my daughter. Now, outside of like the academic learning of math, she learned how to budget. She learned how to count money. She learned those things from me because she had to sit next to me. She had to watch me do these things. So that is something that I absolutely outsourced. And once she got to high school math, I was over it. I couldn't help her with it. It was outsourced. Absolutely. So look for online classes if you can, or look for courses that your child can complete without you have to like hover over them or micromanage them. In that way, they can complete work independently. So if you're not able to do it yourself because you're working, they're still getting something done. They can you can outsource for extracurriculars. Using my child as an example, she's in choir. She goes to choir 2 days a week. For PE, we do like sports stuff around the city. That's free. One of my favorite numbers. You can look for programs that are accredited. You can look for programs that are unaccredited or non-accredited, I should say. It's completely up to you. But hiring teachers and tutors, make that something that you utilize. And if the cost is too much, you can hire local college students. They'll typically do it for free. You can find free college tutors, and some of them are able to get credits for school to tutor or teach your child certain subjects. So outsource, find out about those programs. Most libraries have some type of free tutoring program. Check with your libraries, check with your community centers. My daughter goes to a Boys and Girls Club in the neighborhood that actually houses like 5 different programs, and through that program, she's been exposed to a lot. I was able to find her an apprenticeship with a muralist in the city because I just reached out. So whatever your child's interested in, see if you can find teachers, tutors, or mentors for them to connect with, because that also takes some of the work off of your plate. Now, going back to how are you going to make it work? Like, how are you going to do this? So think about your schedule. I said I started with a rigid schedule, quickly got rid of that. At one point, I let my daughter create her own schedule. I said, you write down when you want to do this stuff, because then there's no pushback. If you told me that you're going to practice Spanish at 10 a.m., that's what you chose. I didn't choose that. You chose that. So let them participate in creating their schedule. Teach around your work schedule. So when I was teaching from home, my daughter would see me with my headphones on, and she knew when I had my headphones on, that meant I was working. Don't come in here and talk to me. And we worked around my schedule. You can teach on the weekends. You can teach in the evenings. You can teach in the morning. You can do it throughout the day. Whatever's going to work for you and your schedule, you make it happen. Now, another thing that's extremely important is building a village. You don't want to isolate yourself. You are not on an island by yourself. And if you isolate yourself, you're going to be exhausted. It's going to be trying. It's going to be hard. So you can join a co-op or a micro school if that's something that you're interested in. If there aren't any in your community, build one, create one. Find those families that are like-minded. And even if it's just something where you meet once a week or twice a week, it's something, some type of getting outside of the home and connecting with other people. Another option is to find other single parents or dual working families and co-teach. So if you're free from 12 to 4 and they're free from 5 to 9, figure out how you can schedule that and make it work for your family. Another thing is joining homeschool groups. And I'm not going to read all this stuff. Y'all can look at that yourselves. But I do want to close with some final remarks. All right, so to begin, we are going to define what single. All right, so this is just some extra advice. If you don't currently have a job where you can work from home, find one. Become a parentpreneur. I have enlisted my daughter to work for me. She is on payroll. She does work for me because she's old enough. When she was younger, she could do some things, but not all things. Whatever you're teaching your child, you could teach somebody else's child. If math is your strong suit, teach math to other homeschool families. So that is my one piece of advice. But my final piece of advice, probably the most important one, is to take time for yourself. Don't forget to take care of yourself. And this is something I've carried with me since I've had my child. My daughter's auntie once asked me, who comes first? My answer was my daughter, my child. And she corrected me. She said, no, you come first, because if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of her. So always make sure that you're taking care of yourself. And then finally, if you want to know more about me and my stuff, there are all my links. Thanks so much for joining me and listening. And to every parent out there, whether you're single or not, you got this.